We all knew that there was going to be a ton of roster shuffling going on with the New York Football Giants as we get closer and closer to the start of the NFL season. And that actually happened this morning and into the afternoon as the Giants are looking to reshape not only their 53-man roster, but as well as get their practice squad in order heading into the beginning of the season. And today the New York Giants, like I mentioned in my earlier video today, the Giants claimed 4 players, 3 defensive backs, as well as an offensive lineman, as the Giants were able to claim offensive lineman Jack Anderson, who played with the Philadelphia Eagles last year, as well as Nick McLeod from Buffalo, Justin Lane, who played with Pittsburgh, and of course Jason Pinnock, who played with the Jets last year. And these guys are going to be coming in and helping out the team going forward in terms of the depth on the secondary as well as the offensive line going forward. And in those corresponding moves today, not only did the New York Giants place 3 players on the injured reserve, which means they're going to miss the first 4 games of the season. That is outside linebacker Ellison Smith dealing with a foot and ankle injury, Shane Lemieux dealing with a foot injury, as well as Rodarius Williams, who's coming off an ACL injury to his knee. They're all going to be placed on the injured reserve, missed the first 4 weeks of the season. And also the New York Giants made 4 other moves today as they have released linebacker Austin Calitro, who was actually a preseason player who was playing very well, could have been a guy that could have been depth at this part of this team, but the Giants decided to release him today, as well as center Max Garcia, who actually showed out pretty well for the New York Giants in a couple of the preseason games. He was featured when the center position was dealing with injuries, as well as Tanner Hudson, who the Giants signed late last week to help out their tight end position. So right now the New York Giants have pretty much only 1 active tight end on the roster if you don't include Chris Myrick, who's right now a hybrid running back, fullback / tight end, and as well Daniel Bellinger is in right now concussion protocol. So the Giants are a little weak at the tight end position. Expect them to address that going forward, as well as defensive lineman Nick Williams. But this one a little bit puzzled. I have to scratch my head about in this one because this one puzzles me a little bit. But I guess the Giants had other positions that were of more importance, and they could afford to let go of a veteran like Nick Williams. Maybe with another transaction in the future, they could possibly bring back Nick Williams to the team because he was good depth, veteran depth to the inside defensive line position for that team. Now, in terms of some of the practice squad players that the New York Giants signed, it was a lot of the guys that they pretty much brought in part of the 80-man roster from last year. So here are the names that the New York Giants have brought back to their practice squad, and some of them are a little bit surprises because you did not think that they were going to be coming back to the practice squad. Some of them you thought might have been signed by another team, and it is as follows. The New York Giants were able to bring the players that are going to be on the practice squad this year for the Giants, and there's 15 of them, is quarterback Davis Webb, who actually looked pretty solid during the preseason, had pretty good numbers, actually was leading the preseason in terms of passing. Jashawn Corbin, who showed out very well, thought he could have been a guy that could have won an original 53-man roster spot over a guy like Matt Breida, but at least he's going to be back with the practice squad. His depth there. Wide receivers C.J. Board and Jalen Moore. Board, of course, the former punt returner last year. At least he's going to be on the practice squad. Is going to be insurance in case you have injuries at the wide receiver position as well as the return game with a guy like Richie James. Tight end Austin Allen, who actually looked pretty good during the latter end of training camp in the preseason, caught a touchdown in the last preseason game. Keep him around as tight end depth. Could even get an elevation to the main roster if, in fact, the Giants don't solve that tight end position going forward. Offensive linemen Garrett McGinnon, Will Holden, and Roy Mbaeteka. Mbaeteka, I'm glad he was able to make it back to the practice squad. Of course, that's the guy that O.C. Umenyiora found in the international pool. He personally scouted him, so it's good to see Mbaeteka back there. I thought Will Holden played pretty solid at the offensive line position when he had the opportunity, so good to see him back. And Garrett McGinnon as well, going to provide some more depth at the offensive line in terms of the interior. Defensive end, Ryder Anderson, glad they brought him back. Thought he showed out pretty well towards the latter end of the preseason in terms of being a good, solid defensive line depth. He had a sack in the game against the Cincinnati Bengals, so at least you keep him around. This one is the biggest shocker to me. Quincy Roche, who I thought for sure was going to be a guy that somebody was going to claim after what he did last year for the New York Giants, as well as he was a pretty solid player going into this team this year. Obviously, I think the reason why he was cut, not the best scheme fit with the New York Giants defense. Shout out to my guys, Coach Ed, Big Pap Sports Talk, as well as NYG22. They pretty much put that in there, that Quincy Roche is pretty much looks like more of a 4-3 type defensive end instead of a 3-4 guy that could drop back into the defense in terms of coverage. But the New York Giants were able to land him back on the practice squad, so kudos to them. Defensive backs Darren Evans, Zion Gilbert, and Nate Metters. as well as safeties Trenton Thompson, Harrison Hand. I really liked what Trenton Thompson was bringing to the New York Giants in terms of the safety position as a young guy that could groom, as maybe a guy that could keep around, and as a possible future piece to the safety position going forward. I think Darren Evans, Zion Gilbert, a couple of other young players who still need a little bit more development when it comes to their coverage skills, need to close their hips when it comes to running after the cornerback, having better positioning as well as technique when covering the wide receivers in and out of their breaks. And I thought Harrison Hand would be a solid veteran piece to have on there in the practice squad. So the New York Giants have loaded up a lot when it comes to the practice squad with their offensive linemen and secondary, which you expected them to do because that's arguably the two weakest spots on this New York Giants team going forward. As well as the New York Giants, according to Ari Mendef of NFL.com, the New York Giants have also signed veteran safety Tony Jefferson, who's played 9 years in the league, and he's played with the Arizona Cardinals and the Baltimore Ravens. Last he played with the Baltimore Ravens in 2019, and of course he had a stint with the San Francisco 49ers where he played in 6 games last year. But he only showed up with 1 sack in the game, and he had 18 total tackles, 9 solo and 9 combined. No, 18 total tackles. My apologies. 18 total tackles, 9 solo, 9 assisted, with a tackle for loss and 1 quarterback hit, and he had a sack on the quarterback. So Tony Jefferson is going to bring a lot of experience to the New York Giants secondary, and it is even reported by the Athletics' Dan Duggan that it's possible that Tony Jefferson could even get. He could just be brought to the practice squad preemptively, but it's possible that he could even get an elevation to the main roster, to the 53-man roster, by the first week of game day, once he gets acclimated more with the defense, and he could be a guy that could start and play for the New York Giants week 1 against the Tennessee Titans on September 11th. So be on the lookout for that. Tony Jefferson, the 5'11", 211-pound, 9-year safety, is going to be now here with the New York Giants, and obviously he's a perfect fit for Wink Martindale's system because he knows the system, playing in it for 3 years since 2017 and 2019 with the Baltimore Ravens. So that's just my updates I wanted to give you guys for the New York Giants. Obviously, I just want to recap the moves that the Giants have made today. In the previous video, like I did before, the New York Giants have made 4 claims today. They have claimed offensive lineman Jack Anderson, as well as secondary players Nick McLeod, Justin Lane, and Jason Panak. And in corresponding moves, the Giants have placed 3 players on injured reserve: Ellison Smith, Shane Lemieux, as well as Rodarius Williams. They will miss at least the first 4 games of the season. And the Giants have also released players: linebacker Austin Calitro, center/guard Max Garcia, tight end Tanner Hudson, as well as defensive lineman Nick Williams. And the Giants have signed 16 players to their practice squad, the maximum amount of players you need to have on your practice squad going forward. And it goes as follows: quarterback Davis Webb, running back Deshaun Corbin, wide receivers C.J. Board and Jalen Moore, tight end Austin Allen, offensive lineman Garrett McGinnon, Will Holden, and Roy Mbaeteka, defensive end Ryder Anderson, linebacker Quincy Roche, and defensive backs Darren Evans, Zion Gilbert, Nate Metters, cornerbacks, and safeties Trenton Thompson and Harrison Hand. So I just wanted to recap those moves for you guys, as well as safety Tony Jefferson, who is the last member to be brought to the practice squad. So I hope everybody enjoys the rest of your Wednesday, Hump Day Wednesday, and leave a comment below on what you guys think about these moves the Giants have made in terms of reshuffling their roster right now, especially the signing of Tony Jefferson, the veteran, to the practice squad, but do not be shocked if he's elevated to the main roster going forward, as well as the 16 people, including Tony Jefferson, that are part of the practice squad for the New York Giants heading into the 2021 season, and some of the players that were released, as well as claimed, and other players that were put on the injured reserve. So let me know about all that in the comment section, what you guys think. And turn on the bell for notifications of when the next video or short is going to be dropping on around the New York Giants. So, and like and subscribe the video if you do enjoy the content. Please like and subscribe if you guys enjoy the content dropping on the channel. So thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday, everybody. And let's go New York Football Giants. Together blue, everyone.